But a lot of things you say are counterculture to what we're spoon-fed by the mainstream media and Hollywood and all the elitist.
Yeah.
And so from what I've seen from you, it seems like in your core, you're against these global elites.
For sure.
And it seems like your opponent is like literally their
entrenched.
She's their poster child.
She's the poster child, yeah. No, she is. Amy Klobuchar's the most dangerous political prototype in America. She's the smile and wave, Minnesota nice, laissez-faire, go to the cookie bake and pretend like she's doing retail politics, but really it's all a smoke show for, it's all a smoke screen for the globalist agenda. It's to create a complacency in the people about their agenda. And the agenda has never been more obvious, and the politicians have never been more superficial in their public presentation.
What do you mean by that? Like, what's exposing that to you?
Well, I think it's getting exposed from top to bottom. Well, really, the thing that I always go back to World War II, not to be like belittle the audience or try and do some benign, obscure history lesson, but we really do live under a post-World War II doctrine globally.
Right.
The entire global order.
Well, we weren't a superpower before World War II. We emerged as a superpower.
Right. Well, yes. I wouldn't say we emerged as a superpower. I would say the globalists emerged as a superpower.
Well, hijacking the great works of us, we the people, right?
Well,
because they need us, right?
Yes and no. Let's talk about it, okay?
Yeah.
Post-World War II democratic liberal order, otherwise known as the international rules-based order or the liberal order. After World War II, reconstruction of the entire global economy, Bretton Woods Conference, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, United Nations, so on and so forth. United States dollar becomes the reserve currency for the entire global economy. A lot of countries get grafted onto that world order. And what it really became was a sort of a Ponzi scheme for us to use the United States dollar as a military tool. We said we wouldn't. We promised all these nations that the dollar would remain neutral as a sort of adjudicator for freedom and democracy all around the world as the new aspiration of this post-World War II democratic liberal order. We lied. At every turn since World War II, we have tried to use the dollar and that economic hegemony to intimidate and bully other countries to do what we want them to do, whether it be right or wrong. And now what's happened is it's run its course because the whole scam was based on political promises, both here in our country and also internationally, that weren't kept. Not just around the neutrality of the dollar, but I mean around the speed of innovation and technology. Let's say the efficiency or the efficacy of liberalism as a political philosophy, and whether or not we really believe in democracy. And that's what's really coming to the center now is, we talk about democracy and it sounds good on paper, but really what we're doing is applying a soft authoritarian and totalitarian statism where and when we can. It has nothing really to do with democracy at all.
I had this epiphany within the last couple of years. Certainly it became very evident to me in just the past year when Trump faced the civil case in New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember in the 90s, I was too young in the 80s, but certainly it started in the 80s. China was starting to emerge as a somewhat market-based economy, and I remember being an advocate.
That was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it started, I think, probably even
started
70s.
Back in the 70s
Nixon
when Nixon
opened it, yeah.
Right.
So, but I was obviously advocating for this 90s, 2000s, that China is emerging as this market-based economy.
Right.
And then I think it's very apparent to us that if you do business with China, you're really, in the end, the state is behind it. If somebody acts out, one of these private business billionaires in China, really, they can go and disappear for a month, right?
Very easy.
So in other words, they allow the markets to exist because communism doesn't work in the sense that it takes away the market conditions. It sets prices. That doesn't work. If you don't believe me, just look at the Soviet Union, look at North Korea today.
Right.
China enters into this market-based economy, but anytime they still pull the reins back and go, we're in control.
Right.
And then you see what happens in New York and you go, wait a second, Donald Trump lives in this market-based economy, builds this beautiful company.
The great lie.
And at any time, boop, nope, you can't do business in this state anymore, and we're going to take $500 million of your assets
Overnight.
And I see someone writing tariffs and tax rates and stuff like that, another good case. And it's just like, you know what? Actually, aren't we the same model?
Yes, we are.
We just aren't national because at least we have some jurisdictions
sir.
here. But aren't we that same damn model?
Amen, sir. And then I came under scrutiny this past week in national media because I said that the bad guys won World War II. And I said later on in that post back in 2022, I said that in the Allied forces, you can see the soft connection between liberalism and communism. And it just so happens to be the case that historically speaking, after the Enlightenment, there were three ideologies that rose up to prominence, and they were liberalism, communism, and neoclassicism. And so the intellectual roots of the post-Enlightenment Renaissance scientific method-based society, Westphalian Western society, has liberalism and communism, conjoined at the hip. And when you get to a certain height of economic and political power, there is a very blurry line between liberalism and communism. And that's what I was saying, that we called it the post-World War II democratic liberal order, but really what it was the globalist totalitarian agenda. Right. And they just said it was liberalism.
It's because there's no ism to what they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
The elites, they just want power and money, right? So there's no ism there.
Yeah,
they
but
use the isms.
I think communism in the final analysis always tilts towards totalitarianism and state authority.
Correct. Yeah, but the guys at the top aren't living the ism. They're the ones that are wined and dined and living a high life, right? Exactly. So there's no ism behind what they're doing.
True.
It's very obvious. I mean, just understand human beings. Just understand history. What's going to happen is the top are going to benefit. I mean, Kim Jong-un doesn't starve, but his people do, right? So there's no ism with the global elites. We have this